Okay, let's jump right into this explainer and uncover the actual mechanics of storage performance in virtualized environments. If you manage virtual machines, you already know that performance is basically the name of the game, right? So today, we're zooming in on standard IOPS for virtual workloads, and we're going to help you decode those signals your storage arrays are sending you.
So imagine this. A VM is running slow. What's the first thing system administrators usually blame? CPU or memory, for sure. Mostly because those metrics are right there, literally blinking at you on the dashboard. But more often than not, the real culprit is secretly hiding down in the storage layer. We're going to shine a massive spotlight on that hidden bottleneck today.
Here's our roadmap for the explainer. First, the hidden storage bottleneck. Then, standard IOPS by workload, followed by the I/O blender effect. After that, measuring transfer block sizes, tuning paths and queues, and finally, optimizing virtual storage performance.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the hidden storage bottleneck.
Before we can even think about fixing anything, we really have to check the vital signs. The health of your storage essentially boils down to 3 foundational metrics. First up, latency. That's your response time delay, basically how long it takes for the storage to just respond to a request. Then there's IOPS, or input/output operations per second. That is your operation count, meaning how many read and write operations the system can actually handle in a single second. And finally, throughput. That's your raw data transfer rate, which you'll usually see measured in megabytes per second. Now here's the kicker. These 3 metrics are deeply interrelated. You could have incredibly high IOPS, but if your latency is also high, yeah, your virtual machines are still going to feel terribly sluggish.
To really anchor this in reality, let's talk hard numbers. For acceptable virtual disk latency, your read latency threshold absolutely needs to be less than 5 milliseconds, and write latency should be sitting under 10 milliseconds. Now, if you start creeping up into that 20 to 30 millisecond range, you've hit critical warning territory. And trust me, your end users are definitely going to complain about it. Oh, and if you're lucky enough to be on flash-based arrays, you should expect to see this even lower. We're talking usually under 1 to 2 milliseconds.
Moving right along to Section 2, standard IOPS by workload.
You know the old saying, you can't fix what you can't measure? And the tricky thing here is that virtual workloads have wildly different demands. Think about it, an idle VM or a basic OS boot. That needs barely anything, just 0 to 50 IOPS. But scale that up to a web or app server, and suddenly you're looking at 500 to 5,000 IOPS. Throw in database servers with their intense transactional needs, and they can easily demand anywhere from 2,000 to well over 50,000 IOPS. And then there's virtual desktop infrastructure, or VDI, which can suck up 100 to 2,000 IOPS per user. Getting a firm grasp on these standard IOPS ranges is quite literally the foundation for provisioning your virtual storage the right way.
All right, Section 3, the I/O blender effect.
So why is virtualized storage so notoriously difficult to manage compared to the old days? Well, in a traditional physical environment, a server sends a fairly predictable, sequential stream of data straight to the storage array. It's nice and neat. But in a virtual environment, your hypervisor acts like a giant kitchen blender. It takes all those nice sequential data streams from dozens of individual VMs, multiplexes them all together, and spits out a chaotic, highly randomized workload that just absolutely punishes your back-end storage array. Suddenly, that array has to work exponentially harder just to serve all those randomized requests. Virtual desktop infrastructure is particularly vulnerable to this whole blender effect. Let's talk about the dreaded boot storm. During a normal afternoon, a virtual desktop might be humming along at just 5 to 10 IOPS. But hit 9 a.m. on a Monday, when hundreds of users are logging in and booting up their virtual PCs at the exact same time, that generates a massive, sudden spike in heavy, random I/O demand. If your storage isn't prepped to handle that instantaneous IOPS requirement, the whole workforce just grinds to a halt.
Let's dive into Section 4, measuring transfer block sizes.
Now we need to look at the actual mechanics behind these operations. IOPS don't just exist in a vacuum, right? They are intrinsically tied to block sizes. Take transactional databases, or OLTP. They require small, rapid-fire operations, typically sitting right around 16 kilobytes. They are highly random and incredibly sensitive to any latency. On the flip side of that coin, you have analytical workloads, or OLAP. These need to stream massive, sequential blocks of data, sometimes up to 256 kilobytes, where the focus is entirely on throughput. Because they are mathematically connected, changing to a larger block size is going to drastically alter your overall IOPS capacity.
As storage expert Mark Stamer points out, tuning for large files and streaming performance isn't optimal for small files, and vice versa. It is essentially the law of trade-offs.
You generally have to make a choice: optimize your storage for throughput and large files, or optimize it for IOPS and small files. It is absolutely vital that you align your storage configuration with the specific standard IOPS and block sizes that your virtual workloads are actually producing.
Next up, Section 5, Tuning Paths and Queues.
Okay, so how do we actually fix some of these bottlenecks? Let's talk multipathing, and specifically the round-robin policy. By default, VMware sends 1,000 IOs down a single path before it even thinks about rotating to the next one. Well, if your workload is only generating 800 IOPS, it's literally never going to use those other paths. But by simply dropping that round-robin IOPS limit from the default of 1,000 all the way down to 1, you force your system to utilize all available paths simultaneously. It is such a simple tweak, but it's a real game changer that drastically improves load balancing and scales your IOPS across your entire storage fabric.
Next up, we have to talk about queues. And when we're dealing with host volumes, there is a magic number you really need to keep in your back pocket: 32. Standard best practices, like those recommended by IBM for instance, suggest keeping your host volume queue depth right around 32. Now, why does this matter? Queue depth controls the exact number of concurrent I/O operations that can run in parallel. If you crank this too high, thinking it'll make things faster, you actually run the risk of overwhelming the backend storage array, which leads directly to dropped packets and massive latency spikes. Now, an important caveat here. If your backend storage is still relying on legacy spinning disks, good old hard disk drives, you have to follow what's called the rule of 8. A physical disk drive actually operates most efficiently when it has exactly 8 to 10 concurrent I/O requests queued up and ready to go. So you have to do a little bit of math to balance your controller queue depths to ensure that the right amount of concurrent operations actually hit those physical drives. Now, obviously, if you're fully on all flash arrays, queue depth becomes a lot less critical because the latency per I/O is practically non-existent.
Finally, let's wrap this up with Section 6, Optimizing Virtual Storage Performance. To pull everything we've talked about together, here is your concrete action plan. First, always provide adequate physical memory to your VMs. If they run out of RAM, they are going to start swapping to disk, and that will artificially crush your IOPS. Next, if you're dealing with VDI and those nasty boot storms we talked about earlier, all flash arrays are basically mandatory at this point. At the disk level, you want to use wide striping to spread out the I/O burden across as many physical disk spindles as you possibly can. And finally, if you have a highly specialized, super demanding workload, pull it out of the I/O blender entirely and give it its own dedicated storage. Ultimately, managing virtual storage is all about guaranteeing that each individual VM gets the precise performance it requires to run smoothly. So I highly encourage you to go look at your own infrastructure metrics today. Calculate the standard IOPS your specific virtual workloads require, check your latency levels, and ask yourself, is your storage secretly starving your virtual machines? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. See you next time.